It's strange, isn't it? There was a time when he argued with you about everything. Small things, big things, who was right, who misunderstood who, even what movie to watch. But now, you say something that normally would have started a discussion, and he just says, "Okay." You explain your feelings. He nods. You get upset. He goes quiet. And instead of relief, something inside you feels worse. Because deep down you're thinking, why isn't he fighting for this anymore? Why doesn't he explain himself like before? Why does it feel like he already checked out emotionally? Tonight, I want to explain the truth most women never hear. When a man stops arguing with you, it doesn't always mean peace. Sometimes it means distance. And sometimes it means something even more serious. Today we're decoding what it really means when he stops arguing with you. Why men suddenly become quiet during conflict. Why they stop defending themselves. And how to tell whether this silence is maturity or emotional withdrawal. If this channel helps you understand the man you care about a little better, consider subscribing. It's made for moments exactly like this. Let's begin with the first reason he stops arguing. Point 1. He stops arguing because he feels unheard. You bring something up. He starts explaining himself. You interrupt. He explains again. You get emotional. Then suddenly, he stops responding. Not angry, not defensive, just quiet. And after that day, he never argues the same way again. You might think he doesn't care enough to explain anymore. He stopped trying. He's emotionally disconnecting. So you start pushing harder, trying to get a reaction from him, trying to get clarity, trying to get effort back. But sometimes he stopped arguing because he felt arguing changed nothing. Many men don't leave conversations. They leave repeated conversations. If he believes his words don't affect the outcome, he stops using them. Silence becomes protection, not punishment. He isn't always losing interest. Sometimes he's losing hope that being understood is possible. And when that happens, arguing feels useless to him. Point 2. He stops arguing because he is avoiding escalation. You say something sharp during a disagreement. He could respond. He normally would respond. But this time he just says, "It's fine," or "Let's drop it." Then he walks away, and the conversation ends there. You might think, he doesn't respect me anymore. He's emotionally unavailable. He's shutting me out. And the silence starts feeling cold, almost dismissive. But here's something very real about male conflict behavior. Many men are taught from childhood that emotional arguments can become dangerous if they continue too long. Dangerous for the relationship, dangerous for respect, dangerous for control. So instead of reacting emotionally, he exits. To you, that feels like distance. To him, that feels like responsibility. He isn't always avoiding you. Sometimes he's protecting the relationship from becoming something harsher. Point 3. He stops arguing because he is emotionally tired. You bring up an issue that already came up before, maybe twice, maybe 5 times, maybe 10 times. And this time, instead of responding the way he used to, he just listens quietly. No defense, no explanation, no frustration, just silence. Your mind immediately says, he checked out. He's done with me. He doesn't care what happens anymore. And that fear feels very real. because arguing used to mean effort. Now silence feels like surrender. But emotional exhaustion looks very similar to emotional indifference, and they are not the same thing. Sometimes he stopped arguing because he doesn't know what else to say. He already explained himself, already apologized, already tried changing something, already tried fixing something. And when the same conversation returns again and again, he runs out of emotional energy. Not love, energy. Silence becomes rest, not rejection. But there's one reason men stop arguing that almost no one talks about. And if this is the reason happening in your relationship, it changes everything. Point 4. He stops arguing because he is slowly detaching. He used to defend himself, explain his side, care whether you understood him. Now he just says, "Okay, you're right. Do whatever you want." And the conversation ends there. Too easily, too quickly, too quietly. This is when something inside you starts feeling heavy. Because deep down you sense he's not here the same way anymore. He's not invested like before. He stopped fighting for us. And that feeling is hard to ignore. Sometimes your intuition is correct. When a man completely stops arguing, stops explaining, stops defending himself, and stops caring about resolution, it can mean emotional detachment has already started. Healthy men argue when they care about connection. They explain when they care about understanding. They stay present when they care about outcomes. Silence without effort is different from silence with calmness. One is maturity, the other is withdrawal. And learning to tell the difference changes everything about how you respond next. So what should you do when he stops arguing with you? First, don't assume silence always means something negative. Look at the pattern. Is he still affectionate? Still consistent? Still making plans with you? Still showing interest in your life? If yes, his silence may be stability, not distance. Second, ask instead of guessing. Not, "Why don't you argue with me anymore?" Instead, try, "I noticed we handle disagreements differently now. I want to understand what changed for you." This keeps the conversation safe, not confrontational. Third, pay attention to emotional presence outside conflict. Does he still listen when you talk? Still support you? Still include you in decisions? If those things remain strong, the connection is still alive. But if silence spreads everywhere, not just during arguments, then the relationship needs an honest conversation. And finally, remember this. Healthy relationships are not built on winning arguments. They are built on staying emotionally available during them. Your goal is not to make him argue again. Your goal is to understand what his silence is trying to say. Because silence always says something. You just have to listen differently. Real love isn't about who speaks louder in conflict. It's about who stays present when things get uncomfortable. And remember this, when someone stops arguing with you, don't panic immediately. First, understand whether he is choosing peace or slowly choosing distance.